What's up guys? Today I'm going to give you some tips on how you can turn your terrain into this. It's been almost a whole month since we received the modular terrain in Creative, and since I made my original videos on these pieces. But I'd like to say I've improved in that month, so I'm remaking my tips and tricks video to help improve your modular terrain builds. So let's hop right into this. This section will be really short, but I think a good place to start when building terrain is to have an idea of where you want to go with it, or even have some inspiration. I like to get inspiration from games like Fortnite, The Legend of Zelda, and any other games which have some amazing terrain. It gives me an idea of what style of terrain I want to build, and helps me to even create it. This 20-minute build that I'm showing you was the inspiration to me even making this tips and tricks video. You can always find inspiration in other things and don't be afraid to. Now you'll need pieces to make your base terrain. The first option is this style, which all consists of this one piece. It's very easy and simple, and can have detail added to it later. The next option is to use the bottom of a mountain piece. It gives us this really nice rocky terrain which will help stop our terrain feeling flat. But you'll have to use other pieces for cliffs and terrain elevations as this doesn't look good. The final option would be to mix both of these pieces together. You can place the cliff piece down, and add the mountain bottom onto it, and even use it as detail on the cliff faces. If you don't know which to go with, then simply practice using them to see what you're comfortable with, or maybe even come up with your own style of base terrain. It's completely up to you. Now let's decorate some terrain. Here is a very basic cliff setup. I'm going to show you how to use other modular pieces to make this look more professional and appealing. The first thing I like to do is slightly rotate some of the pieces. It helps to stop the cliffs looking so blocky and forced. And once decorated it will look way more natural. Next up I like to add some rocky ledges into our terrain. These can either be used as ways to traverse the terrain, or to just add some detail like I'm doing. It could even be a broken part of the cliff, who knows. Mix up the ledges and rocks you use, and it'll also help to give your terrain a more natural feeling shape. Now we want to add some rocky pieces into the cliff faces. This is one of my favorite things to do, as it gives the cliffs more structure, and really makes the cliffs look more rocky and real, rather than being a huge single slab of terrain. You'll notice many of the tips I give add an aspect of realism to the terrain. And that's why we do it. Having our terrain feel real will help to make our maps and builds more immersive, and simply way more fun to traverse and explore. I cleaned up some of the terrain, added some basic nature to it, and after a few minutes, my build now looks like this. Let's compare it to what it looked like before just to show how much these tips can change your terrain. The build just had a lot more depth to it now, and the more you practice mixing pieces together, the better it'll look and feel to play on. As you can see I have some terrain ledges that players can't get past, so let's fix that. The first thing you could do is slant some normal terrain pieces to add a slope for players to walk up. Slopes are great for stopping your terrain from being flat too. Similarly to that, you can use the bottom of a mountain instead, and either create a slope, or have a couple of rocky ledges. Both of these are ways to have slope inclines, but now let's try adding some ledges if that's what you'd prefer. Having ledges can help to stop your build feeling forced, and adds more depth to it. Like I did on the grass build, you can mix up multiple of these pieces to add rocky ledges all around your incline, and this also adds more detail to the surrounding terrain. And now we have a bunch of ledges to jump up. I then off camera used the tips I gave earlier to decorate the rest of the terrain, and it looks pretty cool. Now let's move on to sloped terrain. Now let's expand upon the sloped terrain idea, because many people struggle with this. All I'm going to be doing is making a very basic sloped terrain build, along with some sloped cliffs. All you wanna do is take your terrain piece, and rotate it like this. Then you wanna do it again, but so it connects to both the floor piece and the other slope piece. You can keep on going higher by repeating what we just did. And you can now see that we've got a bowl-shaped incline. Now let's add a slope coming down from the top of this cliff. You wanna rotate a terrain piece like this. And now you can keep trailing it along by rotating your pieces so that they match. After some practice, you'll be able to create some cool slopes like this in seconds. I quickly decorated it a little bit too, but it's a very simple approach to having less flat terrain, and also adds ways for players to get up cliffs and higher terrain elevations. To show you that this does end up looking good, I added a few more slopes and cliffs, and after some attempts and practice, the slanted terrain you make will get even better, and maybe even crazier. Now the real tip for terrain creation is genuinely to practice using it. You'll hear that phrase all the time, but it's truly the best tip I can give in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to let me know in the comments if you learned something new, or if you have any tips and tricks of your own. I love reading the comments, so don't be afraid to. And thank you for watching. My creator code as always is NovaJ, and if you want, drop a like and a sub. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.